launch the forecast. This is one of those mornings that, again, if you don't have to get out in the rain, don't. The temperature is dropping dramatically over the next, I don't know, 5-6 hours. I really would love to talk to Bill Jones and get his thoughts on this. Maybe if you're listening, Bill, throw us up some comments. I don't know if you Robertson County weather is powered by our brother Bill Jones, and he does an excellent job on that. Some people will say, well, I follow Robertson County weather to him even, and he'll say, well, that's me. So you might want to just kind of check and really keep an eye on the weather. We do have temperatures dropping dramatically, and everyone knows that lives in this area. When you have that warm and cold air that meet, that's when you have the conditions for high winds, tornadoes, things like that. So I know that we just need to be extra cautious today. So, and with the kiddos heading to school right now, drive safely. So many of those young drivers out on the roadways, please be careful. I don't know if y'all saw that tragic accident last night. I'm going to say it's on Kenny's Road, if I'm not mistaken. Our Smoky Barnes put the story out, but there was a tree down, and it sounds like the woman driving just didn't see it and hit it, and it had just fallen, or it fell in her car or something. Just a really freak accident, and cost her life, and just a tragedy. And it's these trees on some of these roads that you're on, that have these trees right alongside the road, drive at extreme caution, because when we get, that real heavy saturation of rain coming in and the ground gets wet, sometimes come on in here, Meagan, sometimes, these trees will just go down. And that's apparently what happened. It happened just ahead of her, or maybe just as she was driving through. It was just a very tragic accident, very freak accident last night. So I just say extreme caution on the roads today as these temperatures plummet and the winds get high and all of those things. And aren't you lovely? All the bright. You just brought in the color today because it's a dreary day. Meagan Williamson's in the house, and we just appreciate you so much. And, where's Althea? Where's your shop?
She's coming.
Okay. But it's so funny. I saw you at I'm so honored to be a part of the recovery court and the board and all those things. I don't know how much I can contribute right now because I'm still in school and learning to be
immensely.
Anyway, so I'm just so thankful that y'all asked me, because it's just something. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like whenever Ace Timbermeyer brought me to a recovery court graduation for the first time, and I was like, oh, and I don't think I've missed one since, because you just can't.
Yeah. It's special. It's really special.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that's not why they're here. They're not here to really talk. I mean, kind of save the date for the recovery court graduation, sure. But in the same sense, we've got all kinds of stuff going on.
Lots of things.
We're so excited. So again, this is Meagan Williamson, and Althea Sickel will be here in a minute. She's probably doing her code plunge before she gets
I did mine. She didn't do hers this morning. She said she did it last night, but I got up this morning and did mine. I come from Gallatin. She comes from the Madison area, so the rain just was a booger coming up this morning. But
how often do you do a code plunge?
Well, I've only been doing them about 3 weeks is how long. I kind of followed Althea. So for a little while, I was like, Althea, you're crazy. That's crazy. I'm not doing that. And then I just finally, around my birthday a couple weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to do it. And I've just gotten to where I just love them. I feel good. They feel good. My body feels good.
What temperature do you have it at?
So, I mean, it's whatever's going outside. I don't have any way to cool it down or whatever.
You just got a tank outside.
Yeah, so it's just
it's an trough.
Well, it's an inflatable tub. Althea has a tank, or a trough, but mine's just like an inflatable one. But anyway,
see, we have a cattle trough that my husband's been doing ice baths in for years, and I have done it a couple of times. I'm super cold natured, and I just like, I can't hardly stand it. And we just recently invested. I'm a swimmer, and I have been looking at these endless pool things for 5 years. And they had this liquidation thing, and I finally bought one, end of last year. And it's so funny because whenever it was super ice cold, I started to call her and say, okay, it's not hot. You want to come over here and swim? It's like I got it in my backyard. But that thing can get cold sometimes. I mean, just even if it's like it. My husband likes to keep it at like 79 degrees, I think, or no, 89 degrees. I'm like, I want it hot tub, but it's like, anyway. Cold plunge is so healthy for you. I know And I don't know. I may start again. I don't know. I need to do something. But yeah, she's probably she'll be in here in a minute. But
Yeah, she's coming.
just caution because there's a lot. Paul Rainey is chiming in. He's up in Hendersonville, Gallatin area, like around the edge of Gallatin. Their power's out. Was your power out this morning?
I mean, I left before anything happened, so if they're out
Okay.
now, good luck to my family getting ready.
Well, I was finishing getting ready, and mine went out, and I just threw
Yeah.
everything in my bag and came here to the station and finished getting ready
Oh,
because they
bum-
had power. So I was like,
Ugh.
"Yay!" When I pulled in.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Of course,
Yeah.
if we didn't have power, we wouldn't be on the air. But we're here, and we have things to talk about.
We
and if
do.
you're not aware of our recovery court, you just don't know what you're missing. So when is the next graduation? Let's just throw that out there so people can save the date.
For sure. So the next graduation is, hold on, I have it in all my notes. April the 25th.
So that will be coming up here really quickly.
Like-
yeah.
Yeah, like 7 weeks or something. And we were looking at it the other day, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So we asked for everybody to come around 11:30 to get in line, get your food, and then we start the ceremony at 12. So yeah, it'll be here before you know
Free
it.
meal, y'all, and it's always delicious and always wonderful, and it's always just wonderful. These stories. How many graduates are we expecting?
Right now, we've got what we think is about 10.
Oh
so,
wow, it's
yeah.
gonna be a big one.
It's a good group. So yeah,
All
it's
right.
exciting. It's good stuff. So
I'll take the day off and I'll be there, or I'll take whatever. I'll probably go in the morning and then leave in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
But I just have to be there. I just love it. It's just it's just so inspiring. So inspiring.
I love that. You know, I was telling somebody last night. Somebody commented on like Stay Positive News did an article for us, and I know
Stay
shout
Positive
out,
News.
yes, thank you. But I told somebody who commented, I was like, you know, it's really important the community when they rally around our folks and when they're graduating and they're going out in the community and they're living their lives. It's so important to rally around and show them like we're destigmatizing addiction. You know, we are pushing recovery and we're welcoming people in, and you know, so it's really important the community shows up. So I love that. So yes, please, community, come out and love on our graduates and give them a, you know,
There you
push.
go. Just an
keep
encouraging,
going.
just
Yeah.
clapping and you know, putting a hand on their back and giving them a hug and
Yes.
congratulations, whether you know them or not.
Yeah,
Tell them their stories are inspiring because they are.
absolutely.
And I mean, I'm excited for who we were talking about is going to speak.
Yeah, I know.
We won't say that yet.
I've got to nail him down and confirm.
You know, I'm kind of like, oh, really? That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, I mean, all these little things we're not really ready to share. So how much do you want to share before Althea gets here?
Well, I know she's got a whole bunch of notes. So I just made some notes. I don't think we've actually talked to you about mental health court starting. I can't remember if we really.
haven't. We teased it, and I
maybe.
mentioned it when
Okay.
I had Nami in here.
Okay,
you know, I
okay.
had them in here. And
Awesome.
Her first name is Barbara. Is it Barbara? No. What is her first name? I'm so sorry. She's gonna be like, LaVern.
Hold on, I've got her in.
You know,
Amy. It's Amy. Amy. Yep.
Amy. Barbara's
Amy
with,
Lawrence, right?
yes, Amy Lawrence.
Hey, Amy, I've got to connect with her. So
Yes,
yeah, because
yeah.
we'd like to. But I mean, it's small right now. It's not. You know, we've got 10 participants. Well, we don't have 10 yet, but we've got room for 10. I think we've got 7 right now. But we just saw a need. You know, recovery court's been established for a little while, but we saw a real need for folks who the main qualifiers are somebody with severe and persistent mental health. And what we were seeing is recovery court had a lot of individuals who were dual diagnosis. They had substance abuse going on, but they also had, you know, some mental health stuff going on. It's kind of the chicken or the egg. What comes first? You don't really know. But a lot of times it is the mental health stuff. And so we, you know, the state, the federal government started pushing grants and for mental health courts to, you know, keep up it and getting established. So we applied and we got approved. And so we've rolled that out and we're really excited. That's a whole baby in itself.
Yeah, sure.
But it's great work. I mean, it really is. It takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication, and those clients need a lot more care and a lot more focus, but it's good stuff. So I just...
Well, and I worked at the Madison Church Christ and the Benevolence Program for years before I went into the classroom. And the people who we see that come through that are in need of our services at the Benevolence Center, that have got legal issues or something that there's an underlying mental health issue. I just can't say enough about getting properly diagnosed. My sister, God bless her, I hope she doesn't mind me talking about her. She's passed, but she had bipolar, and we did not know it when she was younger.
Sure.
And she's up in heaven going, preach it, sister. You need to share.
Yeah.
But the things that we could have done, I think that would have helped her. And I mean, and she never had any kind of legal issues or anything like that, and fortunately, no addiction. But seeing how it affected every aspect of her life. Come on in here, Althea, cold plunge queen. We're talking about you. So, but seeing how it affected every aspect of her life.
Absolutely.
The things that could have been done to have helped her just on that journey, if it had been identified early and dealt with early on.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, so seeing that in her, understanding that and seeing that when we have people that come through the courts or come through any kind of addiction issue, whether they've got, had a severe enough issue to end up in the courts or not.
Yeah.
It's just amazing the difference it can make.
Absolutely.
Just the amazing difference it can make. So many times we'd have somebody in the homeless community that would come in one day and they were just a completely different person than they were the next day.
Yeah.
And it wasn't any kind of substance, but it was a pharmaceutical prescription that they no longer could afford. And they were, and they would get off their medication that they needed, and it would be like, what?
Yeah.
It's a completely different person.
Yeah.
And we fortunately have a benevolence minister that worked in law enforcement for so many years. He could recognize it. And so, I mean, it's just a big thing, guys. There's so much going on. We're talking about the mental health court, Althea, while we were waiting on you to show up. Okay. Yeah. Did you do your cold plunge this morning? Is that why you're late?
I did not.
I'm just, it's the weather. I'm just teasing you. You're fine. You're so fine. You're fine. We're just teasing you. But you have introduced our sister here to cold plunge, and you've made me think, okay, I got to get back in.
Told her, I said, get on it, LaVern. Give it a go.
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
Total side note to recovery court and mental health court, but so some self-disclosure, personal disclosure. I struggle with anxiety and seasonal depression, and I'm a person in recovery myself. And I try all kinds of different things that just boost my mood and reduce my anxiety and help me have a better quality of life. And I have some friends that were cold plunging, and they asked me to go one time, and I said, heck no.
Kind of like me.
That's what I said to Althea the first time she brought it up.
Crazy.
Yep. And we used to go on these hikes this last fall over by the Harpeth River, and one day they said, we're going to plunge. And I said, I'm going to bring my bathing suit just in case. And when I got there, I was like, I'm going to do it. So I did 10 minutes at 50 degrees in the Harpeth River. And the experience itself it's really cold while you're doing it. It's a little bit jarring. But afterwards, I noticed I just felt almost more alive. And so I got myself a tub, and I've been doing it a few times a week. And I really noticed an improvement in my mental health. So
isn't that amazing?
Stay with it.
And of course, you all just freaked us out when we were having our, polar vortex, and you were like climbing in the tub, and it was 0 outside, and your dogs were going, don't do that. They were barking they were like fussing at you, going, it's too cold. That's crazy. The dogs were just like, I don't think this is a good idea.
They were playing in the snow, and they would come up to the water and stick their nose in and then turn around and run the other way.
It's so funny. But anyway, Althea Sickel, Meagan Williamson, they're here. They're recovery court. And they are recovery court. They lead the recovery court. There's other people there too,
there are lots of other folks.
I mean, that's so funny because you think about how it's grown since I've met y'all. And you were part-time for a long time.
I was.
I mean, praise the Lord, they finally got you taken care of. But and the way it's growing, I mean, so where do you want to start? I don't want to let any of the cats out of the bag because I'm not sure what we're talking about and what's okay to talk about because I'm in the board meetings and I'm like, I know all the things, but what are we sharing with the public today?
Well, I think we got a few things, but I wanted to make sure we hit on the community knew about mental health court. I thought we had kind of talked about it, but let's talk about IOP.
And where it's going to be.
Yes, absolutely. So IOP, Intensive Outpatient Program, this is something that has been on my mind and then Althea's mind, like we have been brainstorming and really, it's really just been a labor of love. And we've been looking at trying to how to kind of bring it together. And there's a lot of thought and plan. I mean, you're talking about years. I mean, probably 5 years of thought and planning that has gone into like how to put the pieces together. And so when the opioid abatement funds were released and we started hearing about that, we kind of looked at, okay, this is going to allow us to have the funding to really push this forward. So we're ready to go. We're going to start rolling that out. We have pushed back just a week right now. We were initially next week, but we pushed it back to March the 12th because we need to get we need our census up to about 5 to have a group that can really be therapeutic. So that's what we're working on right now, is kind of rolling it out. So
I remember the first time y'all said something about an IOP. I'm like, what is that? I don't even know what you're talking about. And it's so exciting.
I really wanted to make sure that the community understands this is not just for recovery court clients. This is for anybody in the community who qualifies and wants substance use treatment. So if you are somebody listening right now and you're going, oh, my spouse was talking about needing some help with stopping using alcohol. If there's somebody who qualifies for this level of care, call us. Like, we want to help them it is not just a recovery court IOP. It is going to be for anybody to refer into and get help. And that's the goal for us, is to see it spread a fire for recovery in Robertson County. So
one thing that I see working with Celebrate Recovery is things like, okay, somebody has a porn addiction. Is that, or is this just chemical?
This is substance? Just going to be substance use. Yeah. Okay. So,
I mean, there are people that truly,
sure,
that and gambling and those kinds of things, true addictions. I mean, my husband, he wants to start a 12-step program for these.
I love it.
Well, because our students,
it's
unreal.
I love it.
It's unreal. And I was at we had the incoming freshmen, the kids coming up from middle school the other day. We did a program for them at the high school, and I had 2 young men come up, and they were there. I'm not going to say too much about them because I don't want you to figure out who they are, but they were wanting to talk to me about the audio video program. The entire time, they never made eye contact with me. This constant. It was so. I was just like, guys.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're interested in my program, and that's one of the hardest things is we use our phones so much in my program to work with and stuff. So they get, and I'm just getting to the point I'm having to grab them from some of them because they're. And I'm going down a rabbit hole, but oh my word! But the chemical and substance abuse, though, just leads to so many devastating things in the courts, in the families, destroying families. We've all seen those families, those heartbreaking stories. Yeah. Of course, then we get to see the rejoicing when they all come back together and they graduate from recovery court, and those families are around them, and all those beautiful stories too. But then we see some that don't end so well, and so we see the full circle of it.
Absolutely.
And this has just been a missing piece here in Robertson County.
Yeah.
So, what else do you want to say about it? Do you want something where it's going to be? And Mayor Vogel was in here yesterday and mentioned y'all. And he goes, I don't know what I can say. And I'm like, well, they'll be here tomorrow, so we'll let them. So we're both kind of trading now because we know all the things. Sure. And so he's like, I don't know how much I can say. I said, well, they'll be here, so we'll let them say it.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what do we want to tell everybody?
So a couple things. First, I wanted to say that although our IOP will serve substance use disorder, so anyone that's using a substance, whether it be a prescription medication, if they're overusing, overtaking it, running out early, something where it's causing unmanageability and consequences in their lives, because, someone who takes a prescription as prescribed, and they're not drug seeking, they're not going to 3 different doctors, they're not going in and making their symptoms seem worse than they actually are to try to manipulate and get more.
Right.
That's not a substance use disorder. That's someone who's taking a medication as prescribed and, kind of different ball game. But there's plenty of people that are prescribed medications and it kind of activates something in them, and they'll start, finding that they're looking forward to going to see the doctor. They're running out early. They're taking more than they need to or more than they're prescribed every day. Alcohol, illicit drugs, meth, heroin, fentanyl, whatever. All of those people can get treated on an outpatient basis if they qualify in our IOP. But if you've got people that struggle with other addictions that aren't substance use, there is help out there for that as well. It's not something that we specialize in, but if there's somebody listening that knows someone that doesn't know where to turn, let me know. I know lots of people in the treatment community. I'm connected with, therapists in Nashville. I can do some quick research to find out if there's support groups available. I'm sure that there are. There may even be some free ones, like peer-led kinds of things. There's Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. There's Sex Addicts Anonymous, where people can do peer, support groups that are really helpful for people that engage in those, and those are no cost.
Right.
So Gamblers Anonymous, there's lots of support out there, and I would be happy, even though that's not really my scope, I'd be happy to help connect with resources if people are needing them. Maybe, 10 or 20 years down the road, we might have something like that. We've been waiting for our substance use disorder treatment for quite a while. It's been a labor of love, as Meagan always says. But I want to talk a little bit about why, and I think that we've done that a bit before on the show. Why do we need, intensive outpatient treatment here? And, we were awarded a lot of money through the opioid abatement that the county got. And I know that there were a lot of worthy agencies that were requesting funds for various things. So I just want to talk about why this. Why are we pouring ourselves into this? And the reason is because there isn't anything here. There's a few peer support groups. Those are super helpful. However, for a lot of people, they're not intensive enough. There aren't enough of them, and they don't really give, the full education about addiction as a disease of the brain, which we know at this point from the research that's been done using fMRIs, which are functional MRIs, so we can see what happens in a person's brain when they are addicted to a substance. We can see the parts of the brain that make, conscious decisions and rational decisions. It goes dark, and their midbrain lights up. So they're starting to make these decisions from a survival perspective without their rational mind. So if you have a family member that is using and getting in trouble with the law or stealing from you, and you're looking at them like, I don't know who this person is, that makes sense. You're correct, because that person's decision-making brain is not online. So it's almost like you're talking to someone that you don't recognize. And it can be really scary, both for the family and for the person. We get people that will say, I don't know how this happened. And it can be really confusing. And I think from the outside, it's confusing for the community. And it's a choice is still a really common thing that people believe. It's not a disease, it's a choice. And I'm a research person and an information gatherer. So I've looked up, what is a disease? Well, it means that there's a collection of changes in the body that are predictable across different populations. And it means that there's symptoms that are predictable across populations. I think there's one other thing, but addiction meets the criteria of what the American Medical Association, determines is what a disease is. They're able to monitor that in the brain and can see that those changes happen in everyone that struggles with addiction. So, it's confusing. It is not a choice when someone is in the grip of that and their brain is really activated. So we know that your frontal cortex, your decision-making brain, comes back online once you have a little time away and you get some treatment. That gets better. So then you start seeing, like in our program, people who come in and they're just broken down, and I don't see them when they get arrested, but I'm sure the officers in the community could testify to the fact that they have a person who is having a really hard time and has been doing some sick things to meet their addiction's needs. And the person that gets arrested versus the person that's been in our program for 6 months or a year and a half looks like, acts like, thinks like, and behaves like a completely different person because their brain chemistry is different. So prior to us opening this IOP, the only treatment available to people on an outpatient basis, intensive outpatient, so there's probably therapists in the area that do individual counseling, but there's not 9-hour-a-week groups where they're having frequent contact and learning a lot of information and meeting peers in this area. People are having to drive to Madison, Gallatin, Nashville, There's an evening IOP in Nashville that we have sent our clients to, and sometimes it takes them an hour and a half to drive there through Nashville traffic. So it's
South Nashville, so it's
wonderful program.
Yeah.
I love
trying
them.
to get there. Yeah.
yeah.
But it is a huge barrier for people. And let's talk realistically. You know, for someone that doesn't have a severe substance use disorder, maybe they're managing things semi-well, functioning. You know, they still have their job. Maybe they still have their home. They still have their family. For the time being.
Yeah.
But, you know, it can be a huge burden, an insurmountable burden to have them drive 2 or 2.5 additional hours, you know, of time plus gas money to drive to Nashville to get that kind of treatment. So we're trying to make it more accessible, because we know that if it's more accessible, people that would otherwise not have done it will participate. And, you know, we want to help those people. We want to give them at least the opportunity. You know, treatment alone is not the only factor. We have tons of people that come in and they just don't get it. They're not ready for whatever reason. The consequences don't feel great enough. They have immense amounts of trauma that are also impacting the way their brain's functioning, and that's kind of out of our scope. But it, you know, we never know what's going to hit for somebody, but we can track our outcomes, and we know that treatment is helpful, and it lowers the risk that they're going to be, you know, it lowers the amount that they're using. Even if they don't remain abstinent after they're done with treatment or recovery court, it does lower the amounts that they're using. They're able to maintain abstinence longer. There's all kinds of outcomes that show that it's helpful. And I think it's especially important to not look at using substances or not using substances, because that's one way to measure, but it's not really the most effective way to measure. So if someone has a reduction in substance use, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So they're doing less damage to their life, and they're doing less damage to their brain and less damage to their relationships if they're doing that, if they're doing less substances less frequently. So we want to be able to make this treatment available to people that live here. You know, there's so much treatment available in Nashville. There are new treatment programs popping up all the time: inpatient, outpatient, partial hospitalization, many different housing options. We have very limited housing options here, and that's
the next
step.
The next target.
You know, because a lot of people are living in an environment that's not supportive of their recovery. So they go to treatment, and then they go back right into the environment where either there's people using, or there's abuse happening, or they're isolated, and they're not. The risk is very high for people like that. It really helps to have a period of time where they go through almost like a social detox, and they can start gaining some awareness as to what are the things that are going on in my life that increase my stress or put me around substances that are a big trigger, or family members or family relationships that are triggering, and how do I start to have some boundaries? And when you're in the middle of that, you can't see the forest for the trees. Humans get really desensitized. We adapt. So that can be a positive thing. Survival wise, I'd say anytime we adapt, it's a positive thing. You know, our bodies and our brains are doing what they need to do to survive. But in the context of addiction, sometimes survival is really, we get stuck in this like harmful cycle that keeps going. So we want to give them a chance to kind of get out of that and get a little more sensitive to what's happening in my life. What are my relationships like? Are they trusting? Are people treating me well? Because a lot of our people come in and they're used to being treated really badly, and they treat other people badly, and they don't know that that's a problem. They're just used to it. They don't see it. And we'll come in and talk about it, and they'll just justify why it's okay. They don't see that it's an issue. So it's really a whole person thing. But I digress. I feel like I got way off track.
No, listen, I just love to let you go because you speak so passionately to it, and you can speak from the heart because you've been through it.
I have.
You know, and so, and that's just because I'm sitting there listening to you and listening to the things that I don't have, this is not an issue for me, but I've known people that they completely change because something in the brain, like you said, just happens. When my students, I'll have a student that'll have some kind of surgery, and I know they're on, you know, like I'm taking pain meds. I'm like, are you taking any pain medication? I will ask them those questions. And well, no, are you sure? Are you sure? I mean, I will. I've had 2 or 3 of them that I've known have gone through surgeries that I have asked them multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still taking pain meds? Did you take pain meds? What did you take? How many did they give you? Those kinds of questions, not trying to be intrusive, but to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. You understand it better. And you guys understand that trigger.
Yeah.
For somebody like me, I don't really understand the medical side of it. I'm so thankful. When I've been given pain meds over the years, they just make me want to be sick. I don't want nothing to do with them because they just make me sick to my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
I'm thankful
Yeah.
that they made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
So, I can't understand it, but I've seen it so many times because of the world I've worked in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing I love is that even though you can't understand it, you can at least sit with people. And that's what we need. If you're not somebody who struggles with addiction, thank God, that's
Yeah, praise the
wonderful.
Lord.
But you can still sit with other people and you
bet.
can recognize that it is a problem that we need to help.
Mhm.
We don't, we cannot arrest the problem. That is age old. That's old school thinking.
Well, and it's shown not to work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you look at crime statistics with people that are arrested, and if our goal is to stop the crimes from happening that are surrounding addiction, and I could go into other criminal behavior too, not even involved in substance use. There's a small portion of the population where jail and arresting works. They're the low risk people. They're the people that they feel the consequence of going to jail as a big deal, and it is a deterrent, and they don't do it again.
But they're probably not your people who are using heroin
They're not
every
our
day.
people.
They're not our people in
Our
recovery
people
court.
are high risk.
Mm-hmm.
And there's assessment tools where you can determine that. And there's lots of research that shows that these people go into the system, they come out of the system. They're back to the same old stuff. And you can blame the person for that. We can get mad at them all we want. But the reality is, if we don't do something different, then what kind of insanity are we participating in?
Yeah.
If we're saying, well, they're the problem,
Mm-mm.
and we're just blaming and blaming and blaming and blaming, that doesn't fix anything. It keeps happening.
Mhm.
So if we can look at the structure of our system and say, what research and evidence-based techniques and programs can we use that are actually going to be effective to reduce recidivism, to get people working jobs, paying taxes, taking care of their children, having good family relationships. What is going to be effective for that? And we start implementing that, then we see a change. So it's kind of like a shared responsibility thing. We can say, I don't have responsibility over that. And you wouldn't necessarily be wrong to say, well, I'm not the one that committed that crime. Why do I have to be the one that, sorts through and figures out a better way to do this? Excuse me. But as a society, if we look at things that way, nothing will ever change.
You better believe it. And coming back to that empathy, we've got to learn empathy, and it's something that is, man, being in the school system. I'm talk to my kids all the time about it. You do not know what your peers are going through.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
Default to the edge of just be nice and just be kind and comforting and encouraging. Let that be your default.
Yep.
Mhm.
And empathize and say, because you have no idea.
Mhm.
No idea what's going on with your
Yeah.
classmate. You have no idea what they faced this morning before they left. They may have a drug addicted parent. They may have an abusive parent. They may just have all kinds of things going on in their life. And you're just like, well, you don't have any idea. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn empathy, and we'll go a long way
Yeah.
to getting better.
Yeah, I've got something to say on that.
Mhm.
So there's been a ton of research as well. The last few years, I've been really delving into the research behind everything.
We
in the
can
brain
tell.
chemistry. Yeah. So on early childhood trauma and all the different ways that increases your risk of all kinds of various things, medical problems, mental health problems, addiction problems, criminality problems. So when somebody has a lot of trouble with early childhood experiences, which can be physical abuse. I think that's what people think of when they think of trauma, as like physical or sexual abuse, but it can be a parent that works too much or works. And it might be because they have to.
Right.
It might be because
Right.
they're a single parent household and the parent is doing the best that they absolutely can, but the child isn't getting their emotional needs met. So that is a form of of trauma for them. So developmentally, they're not getting their needs met. It can be divorce. It can be a parent that is ill, through no fault of their own. They're in the hospital a lot. So then the focus of the family ends up turning to that sick parent and away from the child. So the child's needs might not be getting met as they would if both parents were available. So there's all kinds of these different things. And we know when those ACEs scores, the adverse childhood experiences are high, it increases their risks. But what decreases a person's risks when they have these adverse childhood experiences is having at least one person who they have a trusting relationship with can decrease their risk later in life, as long as they have somebody they can talk to and somebody that shows care and empathy and concern for them. So I want people to remember that, when we think, well, that person, they've just had too much that's happened, or they're just too much of a problem, or they have too many behavioral issues, that one person that they connect with. So it's not always what we do. Sometimes kids and adults have a hard time connecting with people. But if they're able to connect, it can really have a huge impact on what happens in their brain chemistry and what happens in their life later on.
Just be that one person that tells a kid, you know what, you're okay. You're okay. And I love you, and you're okay. I tell my kids I love them at school, and they look at me like, what? Like I do. And it's like,
that's what I'm talking about. We don't
but,
always know how they'll receive it. But
some of them look at me like, okay, Miss Vivio, you're weird. I don't care. Anyway, we got to do a break here. It's almost 22, guys. Man, there's just so much here. I want to just go to my kids today and just say, I just want to talk to them about this, So you're probably going to get it today in homeroom, guys. Anyway, we need to talk. We get to talk about our sponsors, Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Prime Realty Group. New name, same great team. I'm so used to saying the Garden Gate team, but because we've been saying it for so many years, because they're one of our longtime sponsors. They've been with us forever, and we love them for it. But what they did is Barry took over. He is the broker in Springfield. He has an office there on the square. So they took that office and they combined it with Rebecca's office. She is a agent up in White House. And so they took that office and they combined the two, and they developed a whole new team. So they have got a whole new name, same great team, same great exit team, Exit Prime Realty. If you want to reach out to them and just say, well, hey, what you got going on? You can call Rebecca at 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Bottom line is everything you need in real estate, no matter what's going on. He's the marketer, so he's going to make sure he came out of that marketing background we talk about so much. So he can bring all that expertise for photography, videography, all the things that you need, those walkthrough tours to make sure people see your property in the best light, so you get the top dollar for it when you're in the market for something to sell or to buy. They are your team. Rebecca, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. They came out of different backgrounds, so they've got this diverse background, and they can just address any need that you have. If for some reason you throw something at them and they're like, well, we don't really know how to handle that, they're going to go find somebody that can. They're great friends. They even mentioned that if you have somebody that's gotten into some financial issues and they're in foreclosure, they said, first thing you need to do is you need to call a realtor, because there's probably some options that people are not sharing with you that a realtor can help you with. So, during this day and age where it's just kind of all kinds of stuff going on, think about calling a realtor before you let something go into foreclosure. That's something I never even thought about, but it's just a good recommendation. If you want to connect with them, they're Cross-Plainians. They've been there 28, 29 years. They're one of us. They specialize in Robertson County properties, but also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. Check them out at sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com. But please, always, let them know. Where do we go next, ladies?
I want to comment on something you said, LaVern. I think, because I do the same thing. I tell my clients all the time, I love you, like everybody's, and I think it's really important. I think people tend to like turn their eyebrow up, or like your student said.
Really?
But I think that's because, for me, I think the reason I do it is because I know my clients, a lot of them have not been told they were loved. Yeah. And I think for me, there's different levels of love. Obviously, you love your husband, you love your spouse, you love your friends. And I just think it's important that we just normalize loving each other. And so for me, I love that. And I think it's really important that your students hear that. For me, I know a lot of my clients did not hear that growing up. And I just can't imagine living in a world where you don't feel loved. And so that's an opportunity for me. And so I love that you do that. So I think that's cool. Keep loving your
thank you.
students.
Thank you. Don't roll their eyes at me, but I still,
That's
and
all
I
right.
mean it so sincerely. They have, and like you said, there are different levels
Yeah.
of love. We know that from
Sure.
from when we talk about our spiritual love, and God has so many names for love, and
Yep.
so, but it's the same thing for us, and man, they will know who we are by our love. They'll
Yep.
know we are Christians.
Absolutely.
We're followers by
Yep.
our love. That was my sister's verse. Anyway,
Your students remember that when they go to bed at night, though. They're like, Miss LaVern loves me. They think about that.
I do.
So.
I do. I do.
And even if they don't know how to take it,
Yeah.
we remember the people that it felt like they cared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, that does something, and our brains remember that.
Yep.
You know, it matters. So
I love what you said about just being that one person.
Mm-hmm.
And we can all think about that one person who just kept us grounded.
Sure.
I think about the tough times in my life, the things I've gone through, and there was one person.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it was my parents. I've been so blessed. I had amazing parents, so always them. But even families where you come, even kiddos that come out of families that their parents are just awesome, their family's great, they want that person to tell them it's okay that doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you always kind of take it for granted when you
Yeah.
come from a good family. You're like, oh, well, of course they do. Well, but you want that one person. You want that. You know, I will talk to parents of teens. I'll say you need to be careful because your kids a lot of times they just want somebody to love them that doesn't have to, and they'll go to some pretty dark places to find that.
Yep.
If you're not careful. And so I don't know. We're going down a rabbit hole. Here. What else? Ladies?
I just want, before we move to our next topic, I wanted to hit on IOP one more time. So IOP is going to be for 16 weeks.
Okay.
It's going to be 3 nights a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And so kind of the process looks like if folks got somebody they want to refer in IOP, they need to call our office. The number is 615-382-6265. Option 1 is what you will press. That's 615-382-6265. Option 1, leave a message. We'll call you back if we don't answer. But that's kind of how to get the process started. And so then we'll start some initial screenings. We'll refer in to do, an assessment with the therapist who's going to do that. The facilitator is going to do that. So that's how we'll start the process. But again, I want everybody to know this is open to anyone that wants treatment and wants help, and we will obviously have to gauge, level of care and appropriateness, but that's how to get the process started. So, just kind of want to make sure we hit on that. And, So.
And again, the reason is something that Althea touched on about how that there are so many programs popping up all over Nashville and in bigger cities because people are finally recognizing we've got to help. We've got to help. We've got to find ways to help these folks that are dealing with this. And you look at the way our community is growing, and we've got one, we probably need 3 or 4 at least, and so many other things. So this is just a start.
Yeah.
And the reason why they're popping up all over is people are finally getting this, that what we're doing is not working.
Yeah.
And so you don't keep doing the same thing. You find what does work. And this has been proven to work.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
I think next is Recovery Fest.
I was waiting. I was like, are they going to talk about Recovery Fest? Are they going to talk about Recovery Fest? What is Recovery Fest? Please tell me.
Well, you kind of do a better job with summing up.
Okay. Let's see. Recovery Fest. It is a festival that local communities have. So all the surrounding counties around us have already been having them annually. I think Rutherford County has been going on 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
Davidson County's had them for a long time as well. Cheatham, I think, are they on their second or
Their
third?
second year.
So what Recovery Fest is a festival all about recovery. And we are going to have one here in Springfield come next fall. Is the date?
August 24th.
Yeah.
August 24th.
Yes. And so the hope is that we will have some recovery speakers. We may do some educational stuff. There will be vendors and booths. People will be selling different wares and things. There will be informational booths. There will be food. I'm not sure what kind yet. More will be revealed on that. I think we're going to have some musicians, probably musicians in recovery, although we'll see what pans out with that. But it'll just be a fun time to connect on all things recovery. So speakers, what that means when you get to go to some kind of recovery event and hear speakers is people share what we call their experience, strength, and hope, or their testimony.
Mm-hmm.
So they share a bit about what their personal story with recovery is, maybe a little bit about what things were like for them in their, active addiction and with their substance use, and what changed, what brought them to a point where they were able to do some things different. What kind of help did they get? And what is life like now? So that anyone who hears that gets to hear firsthand what recovery is. So I love hearing people's stories. There's not much that speaks to me more than hearing someone with lived experience, and I'm really behaviorally minded. So I want to hear, like, what happened in your life? What are the interesting experiences that you've been through? What are the struggles you've been through? And how did that impact how you looked at the world? So I love hearing speakers share. So there will be that. So it'll be a fun time. We're going to try to do some family engagement. So we'll probably have some games so that it'll be family friendly and little ones can come and hang out, maybe do some face painting and things like that. So it should be a fun time.
Oh, it will be.
Yeah.
I don't have any doubt.
Yeah.
And have we locked down the time? I know that's been kind of
I'm
tossed
pretty sure
around.
we're looking at early afternoon. I want to confirm with everybody on the board before we really finalize, but it's looking like most folks were in support of early afternoon. So as soon as we get that, we'll start putting some stuff out there. But yeah, hitting on what Althea said, I really want to make sure everybody knows it's going to be family friendly. We're going to make sure. I think that's important because what Recovery Fest is going to do, it's not only for people in recovery, but invite your folks who need some recovery and tell them, come out. I mean, this is not, it's a no pressure situation. It's going to be super laid back. There's going to, like we said, music, entertainment, stuff for the kids. So, the target is, a kid can play a game over here while a parent is listening to something that's being said that, might put something together for them. Yeah. Yeah.
You just never know.
You do not.
I think every one of us, I'm old enough because I talk about I'm 61 years old. So I can remember the times in my life where somebody said something that they had no idea had the impact on me that it did. That just like flipped a switch for me. There's 2 or 3 times I'm just like, and it was simple, something they will never probably ever remember. But that one thing, I was talking to somebody the other day about trying to get them to go somewhere. I said, what if this is the place where that's going to be said that needs to be heard?
Yeah.
You just never know. Yeah. And I think it was you were telling me we did this thing where some of the kiddos got to come up with some logos and things like that for the Recovery Fest. And I think you said one of the kiddos said, "Oh, my dad needs that," or something. Wasn't that what happened?
That was when we went to, I think it was Greenbrier High School, and we were talking about meetings.
That's right.
Yeah.
Numerous. I mean, there were, I don't do a lot of outreach with youth. So most of the connections that I make in recovery are with adults. And I personally was shocked at how many kids stopped and talked to us and genuinely wanted to know what treatment is available. What do I tell my uncle that is having a hard time right now? What do I tell, my dad? Like, these kids are trying to figure out how to help their parents and their adult loved ones get better. And I mean, there's a part of me that's like, oh, that shouldn't be their responsibility. But at the same time, it's so beautiful that they're reaching out and they care, and they're going to ask the people that are offering information in their lives, what do we do? How do I help them? So I took some notes on the types of resources I wanted to bring for the next time to make sure that I would have more information for them, just about, we have our program, but I'm big on, like, let me tell you about what else is out there that I have nothing to do with, just so that you can get connected with what you need, whether I'm involved with it or not. So I will be bringing that with me next time. But there were so many that had someone in their life that was struggling in some way, and they just wanted to figure out how to help them. Tell them where to turn.
What that tells me is that everybody in town knows some of those parents who need the IOP treatment and who can benefit from coming to Recovery Fest. So this, for me, coming today was all about getting the word out there about these things that are coming. So please put it on your calendar, and let's make Recovery Fest just all about just educating the community, those teenagers who are approaching us. And that's one high school. I know there's every high school has got this right now. So let's get the word out there that Recovery Fest is a place where you can come to. It's community. We're trying to be about the community and recovery in the community. So that for me is the big thing, because that's how we help and that's how we bring about change. So
we do everything we can, because I let the kids know if I'm going to be gone, I'll say, well, I'm going to Recovery Court graduation. I talk very frankly about what it's about. I keep things out in my classroom to let them know that I'm somebody you can talk about mental health, about recovery, things like that. As one, I loved it when we had Matt Driscoll up at Greenbrier, because he, is a state rep for Celebrate Recovery, has gone through so much himself, and the kids would talk to him.
yeah.
And I want to, and I'll seem a lot older, I think. But somebody like that, kids need to have. We need those people in the classrooms that are approachable. That the kids know they've got a testimony.
Yeah.
They know what I'm going through. They know what my parents going through. They're not going to be like, your father did what?
It's a safe person.
Yeah.
Because
And anyway. Yeah, go ahead.
kids, well, and myself included, sometimes I want to know that I'm not going to be judged before I share vulnerably.
Yeah.
And the other thing is a lot of times kids can internalize family problems as I did something wrong, or this is something to be ashamed of. And so we don't talk about it. And just having adults around them be willing to have, they are smarter than you think. They can handle
So smart.
talking about things in an appropriate way with safe adults. And they need to know that there are people that they can talk to that aren't going to judge them, because we know that when there's judgment, we tend to internalize that as shame. When someone else judges us, we internalize that as I'm bad, I've done something wrong. And our kids don't need any more of that. They need to know that it's okay. Not only is it rationally not their fault, but they need to know that it's safe to talk about, so they can see that, they don't have to carry that burden by themselves. Because, I have some personal experience with that. My parents were not, they didn't struggle with addiction, but there was some mental health and lots of other stuff, poverty, family trauma. My dad lost his parents when he was really young. So he was closed up like a clam, emotionally, and didn't talk very much. And my mom was kind of always off in her own business. And I carried that by myself my whole life. It took until I got into recovery in my early 30s.
Wow.
To start opening up and talking about it. I didn't know it was okay to talk about. I never felt like I had anyone. I would just deny that it was a problem. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. Meanwhile, I was carrying this monkey on my back of shame and worthlessness, really, because I had internalized that as a kid, because I thought I had to carry this burden for the family, and I didn't know that there was anywhere to turn. So I know it's not that way. That's one scenario. So that it's not that way for all children, but it is for some. And so I think having safe places to talk about stuff, not just where we know it's safe, but where we're inviting. So we have to invite them to have these conversations. Sometimes they'll come up to us at an event and say, "Hey, I so-and-so." But the kids that are quiet, that are withdrawn, they've got something to say.
You better believe they do, and they're the ones you need to be asking.
Yeah. Yep.
Because sometimes that's the only way you can get them to open up, is just say, "Are you okay? Are you okay? What's going on?" Because you can just see that heaviness on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love being in the classroom so much, so much. I just feel God's got me exactly where He wants me, and love those kids. I do. I love y'all. I mean it. Let me take a break here. We got Lee Marie knocking on our door with the ghost show, and she's got a dog out there with her, puppy dog. I'm telling you, what is it? We have pets show up at our recovery court board meetings sometimes, and I said I'm going to bring mine.
Bring them.
But no, mine's too big. But anyway,
You can bring them.
he's a big old
You have
big.
to
bring him.
All right, we'll see. I digress. Let's talk about Cumberland Connect. Here's the thing. My power went off in my house this morning, but I have experimented with this a few times. If the power goes out, if I plug in my generator, my internet still works. My broadband still works, because Cumberland Connect is just the most awesome thing ever. Part of the Gig Club. If you want to be a part of the Gig Club, it's $80, y'all, and you can get an entire gig. I was paying $65. I had pitiful internet. upload speeds of like 3.5. Now it's over 600. It's incredible. It is wonderful. You got to be a Cumberland Electric customer to have access, guys. And that's the catch. And it's not going to be long until everybody that is a Cumberland Electric customer will have access. All you got to do is reach out to them at cumberlandconnect.org, cumberlandconnect.org. Put in your address and say, hey, are you in my neighborhood yet? Are you about to knock on my door? Or if you like to make the phone calls, 800-987-2362, 1-800-987-2362. You can give them a call and give them your address, and they will help you out and tell you they're probably already ready to hook you up. And they've got great deals. If you're somebody you're like, man, $80 is a lot of money. Well, they've got an affordable connectivity program because this is a utility now. We all need it. We've all got to have connectivity. And they have, if you qualifying households could earn up to $30 per month to help pay for broadband services, and they have packages starting at just $30 per month. They can help you with landlines too. With the AT&T outage a couple of weeks ago, somebody said something about, what if I need 911? They said, well, use the landlines. And I heard somebody say, well, nobody has them. You can get a landline through Cumberland Connect as well, so they can help you out with all the things. Cumberland Connect, powered by Cumberland Electric, and when you contact them, sponsors
Speaking of sponsors, so I just wanted to hit on, we need sponsors for Recovery Fest. So if you are interested in sponsoring, I've got some folks on the board who are helping me kind of create forms to kind of get that going. We need sponsors to help make this thing come together. So if you want your information, your business information out there, this is going to be, we're going to get it out everywhere we can. So sponsoring, it's a worthy cause. It's a great cause to be part of. So sponsors we're needing them. And then of course, agencies who want to be vendors at the event. We would love to have all the recovery information. Really, and if there's employers, going back to juvenile, my hope is to, there's some juvenile mental health stuff that's out there. There's other, resources. So, again, making it information for all ages, so teachers can tell kids, hey, there's this great event going on this weekend. That's the goal, is to make it really a whole well-rounded event. So sponsors and vendors are needed for Recovery Fest. So wanted to, again, that's August the 24th for Recovery Fest. It'll be here before we know it.
Fairgrounds.
At the fairgrounds. So going to be great. We'll have the time soon, but again, I'm thinking it's looking like early afternoon, like a 12 to 3 p.m. So we'll get that out as soon as we have it. So that's August the 24th for Recovery Fest. April the 25th, thank you, for the next graduation. That will be at the center in Springfield. We asked for folks to get there at 11:30. So please come out, join us, support the folks. And then
we'll be serving lunch. So
yes,
I'm hungry.
Always.
Yes.
Delicious.
And then just, again, IOP, if you've got folks who are needing it, then give us a call, 615-382-6265, option 1.
And let me just throw in there that if you have, so you might go, well, what does someone that needs it look like? Well, an example might be if you have someone that got a DUI in your family, or someone that got a DUI, you could say, hey, there were those girls from recovery court and they were talking about some kind of treatment. The person could talk to their public defender or their attorney about it. We've done some outreach with them, so they should be aware of what's available. If you have a family member or friend that got a possession charge or a paraphernalia charge, or maybe somebody's stealing to support their habit. So there might be a theft charge. And if you know that it's motivated by a substance use disorder, then that would be someone that you would say, hey, why don't you give them a call and see if that might be something that would help you.
Is there an age? Is there an age limit?
We cannot serve juveniles.
I didn't think so. It has to be 18 or above, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I also want to be clear, just what Althea is saying is true, but if you have somebody who's not in the legal system, but you see that it's causing a therapy, they can call too. I don't want them to just think, so call us. Call us and we'll weed it out.
Outpatient therapy is available now in Springfield. And when's the start date?
March the 12th.
Give the number twice again for me.
615-382-6265, option 1. 615-382-6265, option 1.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys so much. And we will y'all